April 2020 is finished, and it was a bumpy one. The emotional spending and eating are real things for Matt and I, and we struggled. We are struggling through this pandemic and the shelter in place. And you're going to see it all play out in our April 2020 budget report, where I'm going to share our real numbers. Hello and welcome to the Budget Bounce. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jen, and we talk about living life on a budget, paying off debt, saving for our future, all the good stuff that happens on our road to financial freedom. And if you like talking about money and want to join that conversation, then hit that subscribe button down below and tap on the bell and make sure to hit the all notifications so you will get notified every time I post a new video. So let's go ahead and just jump into April and talk about how that went for us. All right, so I've switched over to the screen so that we can see our budget here, and move myself up into the corner here. And if it's your first time since this new setup, I do have a new setup, and that's because I'm working from home, and so I now have this nice big monitor up here that I did not have before. So this is going to look a little weird. I'm not looking at the camera because the budget is not on the laptop. So the laptop's here and that's where the camera is. But it's my nice big monitor that I have set up for my work setup because I'm working from home, that the budget's over here. So it's going to look a little weird, different than what you might be used to if you've been around for a while. But I feel like this setup works pretty well, and I think that you guys can hear me really well when I'm using the arm for the mic instead of having it sitting on the table. So let's go ahead and jump into this April budget. All right, so starting out with our income, you can see that we planned on $9,575, and I always black out the details of our income. I have no problem sharing the total. We didn't have any plans on having any other activity because I didn't have that information when I did my April setup video. Well, we had something come through at the very end of the month, which took our total income to $25,901. Remember, when I'm doing income here, it's not necessarily income from work. It's more about what is the bucket that we're working from to spend for the month. So we had our salaries at $9,575, which, by the way, is a little higher. It's a few $100s higher than normal. And that's because Matt's been working overtime, and we knew for at least one check he was going to have some significant overtime on there. So even at that, we had all these other activities going on. So you can see that we used $125 out of sinking funds, and we didn't do anything with the emergency fund, but then we had $15,517 come in for this home equity line of credit. And again, that was not finalized at the time that I did my video for April. And I didn't have all the final numbers or anything, so I just didn't include it at all. So this is brand new, and I'll be sharing all the details about that when we get down to the debt section. And then we had $32.75 come in from our auto insurance carrier as a rebate because we're not driving as much. They're doing it just like many, many other companies across the US. And so we get a rebate for April and for May. So this was our April rebate. So it brings our total income bucket to $25,901, and we are trying to work against that. When we look at giving, we planned on $50 and we ended up spending $40. So we came in under there. In housing, we had $1,054 for our mortgage, $165 for our gas and electric utilities, nothing for water, garbage, sewer, which is quarterly, $177 for mobile services, and $101 for internet, bringing the total to $1,499. And so obviously we were just right on target. We were off by a total of 30 cents. So nothing unusual here. In transportation, we had an unusual month with gas, but when you're sheltering in place and one person isn't driving the 20 miles a day to go to work like she used to, you end up having a lot less gas usage. So we only had $129 instead of the $300 that I planned. And then OnStar came in just a little bit under. It's at $20. And so our total transportation was $150. So that was $170 under what we planned. All right, next up is food. And you can see here that we blew the grocery budget out of the water. So one of the things that I forgot to take into account when I set up April is that we have 2 additional people living in the house. Now, one of them is a small person, but still we have 2 additional people that we're buying for. And so I just was not thinking about that when I took the number down by $100. And also I didn't account for the emotional spending that I thought I was over with in March. So we ended up spending $895 on groceries total between Matt and I. And in dining, we spent $59, which was under. In total, we spent $954, which was $504, more than twice as much as we planned. I mean, yeah. Anyhow. So $954 for food. Just enough said about that. Moving on to the Henry category, we had nothing. We had no expenses for him, no school fees, no food service, because we got the word in April that they are officially, they have closed the school through the end of the year. So he's not going to be going back. All of his fees were already paid, with the exception of some miscellaneous things that may have popped up here and there. And then food service, he's not eating anything. He actually has an account balance that I'll have to work on getting a refund for. So nothing in the Henry category. And then here we go. The pets was a doozy as well. We didn't have anything in grooming like we planned. We had $23 in food. It was soft cat food for one of our cats. We had $66 in meds for Bella. We had $620 at the vet for Cotton. She's the one I bought the soft food for. The other supplies were I bought 2 food dishes for the cats and then a bed for Bella. So the bed for Bella, because she's right here right now, she's sleeping right next to me because I'm working from home all day, every day, and she hangs out in the basement with me. So I decided to get her a bed so she wouldn't have to just lay on the cold floor here next to me. But these other purchases for the food and the bowls, those were related to Cotton, who became very sick during the month of April. And it happened very quickly. The vet, here's how this all played out. Cotton became very sick very quickly. I mean, it happened so fast. And Cotton was laying on the floor sleeping, and she let me walk right up to her and pick her up. And this doesn't happen with Cotton. She is 150% totally on her terms. She is all about me. I was her favorite person, and I'm the one she wanted to be around, but she never once let me approach her on my terms. It always had to be on hers. If I was laying in bed, if I was in my recliner, whatever it might be, she came to me. And so when she let me walk up to her and just pick her up, I knew something was very, very wrong. And I could tell walking up to her, she was struggling to breathe. So as it turns out, we got her into the vet within like 90 minutes. She was at the vet. She spent the whole afternoon Wednesday there. We took her back on Thursday. And this is that whole curbside, drop off thing. Like, I didn't even get to go in and be with her. Thursday, she was there all day getting oxygen treatments, and she had fluid in her lungs, not her lungs, I'm sorry. She had fluid in her chest around her lungs. And we ultimately determined that it's congestive heart failure. And once the vet told me that means that she'll have to be on meds for the rest of her life, I stopped everything at that point. I mean, I talked to Matt. It's not like I did it on my own, but I talked to Matt, and we stopped all the testing that we were doing and the treatments and said, this is not the life that she is going to lead, because I had trouble getting her once every 28 days to take her to the groomer. There so many times, about every other month, I had to reschedule the appointment because I couldn't find her. And it's the thought of giving that cat meds multiple times a day for the rest of her life. She would have been miserable. I don't have any problem shoving meds down an animal's throat for their own good. I do have a problem terrifying them to try to get them. I mean, we do that with Bella. We have to give her meds, and I have no problem. I just put it back there in the back of her mouth, but she comes willingly to us, and we don't have to chase her. I'm just not going to put an animal through that. And so it ended up being $565.99 for those 3 days, the 2 days of treatment. And then the third day we took her home with us Thursday night, and I loved on her, and we both took off from work early on Friday, and we went to the vet and we said our goodbyes. So We made the mistake with our dog back in 2016, Owen, that we waited much too long, and it was a very traumatic ending of his life, and it didn't have to be. He was in a lot of pain, and he didn't have to be. And we swore we would never, ever do that to an animal again because of our selfishness. So here we are, $743 for pets, which was $609 over what we planned. The good news is that Matt had one of his 2 checks. He had $611 in overtime pay, net pay on that check that paid for this entire category. So we got to cash flow this awful thing that happened and not have to pull out of our emergency fund. So that was pets. And I'll put a couple of pictures up here for you guys so that you can see her before we move on. Ooh. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about our insurance. So you can see here that we didn't have anything unusual here. It was our regular medical, dental, life, short-term disability, accident, critical illness. And then we had Matt's union dues, his mortgage disability. We have a personal articles policy. We have an identity theft policy, and we didn't have anything for auto insurance. So that brought our total to $771, just like planned. Okay, moving on to entertainment. We had streaming at $20. We had HP Inc. at $3. We didn't have anything for Cinemark because they suspended their memberships since their theaters are closed in the United States. They suspended them, so they didn't withdraw any funds. I think it's March, April, May, or April, May, June. They're not going to be taking any. They're suspending all of the memberships. Family entertainment, we didn't spend anything. So our total entertainment was $23, which brought us in $40 under plan. In health, we spent $325 on flexible spending, $10 at the gym, which was $24 under, and that's because the other gym did not take their close, so they didn't take the withdrawal for that. And then in healthcare, we spent $183, and the reason that ended up happening was because at the very end of the month, we had a $103 bill pop up that I had to pay, and so we had obviously already paid $80 out of the $100 we planned. And so we ended up $83 over here. So $518 for health, which brought us $58 over plan. All right. In extras and in crap, I forgot about that. We had no activity. There was nothing that popped up that needed to go into either of these categories. So next up is envelopes where, let's see here. I was over by $55. I spent $95, but I'm returning the biggest expense, which was these they're earbuds. They're wireless earbuds, and they just don't work the way that I want them to work for me. And so I'm returning them. They were a $78 or $79 purchase. So I'm going to end up getting most of this back. Matt, on the other hand, was way over, which typically the shoe is on the other foot here. This is usually me doing this, not Matt. And so this is definitely emotional spending for him. He's been working 6 days a week. He went from working a cushy 37.5 hour per week job to working about 55 hours a week. And that has taken its toll. And so he was definitely doing a lot of emotional spending on food. Almost all of this was food. And we bumped this from 40 to 80 so he'd have extra for his business. And he didn't even spend anything on his business. So April was a tough month for him. We are very blessed that he has a job and that he's bringing in the extra overtime, but it's taking its toll. So he was over by $49 in the month of April, which is just unheard of for him. In household, we spent $234, which was $159 over. A big part of this was, and also the miscellaneous, we were over there by $11. A lot of that was because of the work that we decided to do out in the garden. At the very beginning of the month in April, our daughter Xanthi expressed an interest. Now that she's moved back in with us, she expressed an interest to do a garden, and we have a garden space. We just hadn't done anything with it for 2 years. So I said, I'll buy whatever you need. If you want to do a garden and you do all the work, I'll get you what you need. And so that's what we did. And so we spent $234 there, and then $51 in miscellaneous, and that brought our total to $510, which was $275 over what we planned. In the budget bounce, let's see here. I had $161 in education, and then $1.99 in subscriptions. So what happened here was Adobe Spark sent an email out that they were not going to be charging for, I think for them, it's also 2 or 3 months. They're not charging any subscription fees. So we only have $1.99 for them. And the education, we went over here, obviously. I went over. This was definitely an emotional purchase, first of all. This was me. I was all wrapped up in what was going on with the budget bounce when this email came in. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't mean to purchase $97 of this, but it was a digital download that I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing. And digital downloads, like, there's no going back. So it'll be great. It's fantastic. I just didn't intend to purchase it. So, yeah. So $161 for education, $1.99 or $2 for subscriptions for our Google storage. And so that's $162, which is $151 over what we planned. You see a trend here. We're over what we planned in a whole lot of places. In savings, we plan on $1,249 in the emergency fund. And even with all of that stuff going on, we managed to put $1,203 into the emergency fund, which brings our total to $2,484, which is the most we've ever had in that account. We put the $70 in for the kids, which brought their accounts to a total of $765. And then we had our retirement for both Matt and I, and his is up over what we planned, over what it normally is because of his overtime hours. So we put a total of $1,685 to savings in April. All right, and in our sinking funds here, you can see that we have a lot of them, and this is for a reason. It helps us. We are the kind of people that if we have extra money sitting in an account, we have a tendency to spend it. And so I move it out of our checking account and put it into places where it's designated for a specific use later, so we have it when we need it. So let's just run through these. So auto insurance, we did not end up putting anything in. Auto registrations was $39. Business travel was $20. City utilities was $80. Clothing was $40. Estate planning $25. We didn't put anything in gifts. Henry School was $150. Holidays was $60. Image and cosmetics was $50. Life insurance was $81. Healthcare was $25. One check ahead, which is on our goal for 1 month ahead, was $50. Online subscriptions was $80. Pet expense, we didn't put anything in here since we spent so much. Technology was $25. Travel was $340. Vacation was $100. Vehicles were $100. And wedding anniversary was $15 for a total of $1,280. And you can see that was significantly less than what we planned. And that was due to a number of factors. But let's go over here and look at what we spent here. So we only spent out of one category, and that was the online subscriptions. And so we ended up, that was actually for the month before. That was actually for March. I pulled some money in to help take care of those things. And so you can see here our balances here. Auto insurance was $1,156 at the end of the month. Auto registrations $218. Business travel $20. City utilities were $447. Clothing was $130. Estate planning $136. Gifts $61. Henry School was $469. Holidays was $161. Image cosmetics was $142. Life insurance $362. Healthcare is $121. One check ahead is $185. Online subscriptions is $357. Pet expense is $164. Technology is $328. Travel is $2,304. Vacation is $856. Vehicles was $145, and wedding anniversary was $182. That brings our total to $8,453 in sinking funds. So with the $8,453 here, plus another $3,250 here in our savings accounts, you put those things together, that is it's over $11,500 that we have liquid available to us if we need it. And so if something were to happen and one of us were to get sick with the coronavirus, or if one of us had to stay home and take care of one of the kids or something, or if we stopped working, we both are still working full time, but if one of us or both of us had to stop working, we would be okay. We would be okay because we have a lot of money. While it's earmarked for other things, we could shift things around and have quite a bit of money to help get us through probably 2 to 3 months of living expenses. Add in unemployment benefits and things like that that may be available to us, and we would be able to make this stretch pretty far. So I'm feeling pretty good about the fact that we have this, even though it's not in the emergency fund. It's still available to us, and we can use this however we want if an emergency happens. All right, and finally we have our debt category here, which is pretty big, so I have it broken into 3 sections. The first section is the debts that we've paid off so far. So these are debts that are completely and totally eliminated and gone forever in the amount of $25,434. Some of them are in pink and some of them are in black, and that's because the pink ones were debts that had my name on them, and the black ones were ones that had Matt's name on them. So if we go down to the charged off section, this is debts that these are all in black because they are all in Matt's name. These are really old debts of his that have been charged off. They're no longer with the original creditors, and we owe $9,547 total on those. We're not dealing with those right now. Instead, we're actively paying on this group here. Get this pulled up for you. There we go. This group down here. So we have $185,512. That was, what is this? This is, this column. At the end of the month, that's how much we had left and are actively paying. So we paid $20 to this ambulance bill, $50 to my care credit card, $25 to Capital One, $154 to my 401k loan, $55 to Matt's private student loan, $190 to Lowe's, $15,576 to our Visa. I'm going to come back to that. Nothing to the HELOC. I will come back to that. They're tied together. $550 to our car payment, $725 to child support, $200 to a family loan, and nothing to student loans. And so that total was $17,546 that we put towards debt. Now, let's talk about how we did that. Remember, I had $15,500 and some dollars or something like that up in the income, and that was for the HELOC. Well, that was used to pay off this Visa that had a 17.99% interest rate on it. And I could not stand, we were paying $200 to $210 a month in interest and making zero headway on it. And so we opened up the HELOC, which is a line of credit against our mortgage. And it was for a total of $16,603. That includes all of our closing costs. So obviously our debt went up a little bit during the month to make this happen, but the interest rate on this loan is 6.25%. So the estimate in the first month is that it'll be around, I think $86 or $88 in interest instead of $205 or $10. So that is something that I was looking for some relief in this very high interest, very high balance card. So we are starting that. So you'll see that for the first time I said it's in our May budget setup. I talked about it there, and you'll see it in the May budget report to start with. They set it up as a 10-year amortization, which the payment is like $185 or $190 a month for 10 years and then they refinance after that. Well, that's not what we're doing. They did that. That's all well and good. And at the beginning right now, while we're in the middle of the pandemic, which when I started this, I had no idea we were going to be in a pandemic by the time we finalized everything. It's because it took so long because of the issues with my dad's health and me being out of town and all of that. It just caused a lag. Something that should have taken maybe 4 weeks took 8 weeks to get done. And so that meant that we came out the other side of this and now we're in the middle of the pandemic. And now I'm really glad instead of paying $400 a month, I'm glad that I only have $185 or $90 payment to pay every month. And once we get out the other side of this pandemic, we are actually going to go back to paying $400, which is more than twice as much as what is owed every month. So that's our plan, and we will absolutely stick to that because right now we're just throwing everything extra that we possibly can into savings. Once we get past this, then we can focus on putting all of that extra into this HELOC. We want to do at least $400 a month to the HELOC. So anyway, that's what's happening with that. All right, so let's talk about our total income versus expenses. So our total income was $25,901 and our total expenses were $25,887, leaving $14 left over. When we look over here, you can see our starting debt was $195,655 at the beginning of April, and by the end of April, it was down to $195,059. That means we killed off a total of $596, meaning, yes, we paid way more than that, but when it was all said and done, we only killed off for good $596. Now, this is very low, but the trade-off was that we got this new HELOC that is 6.25% instead of 17.99%. It's 1/3 of the interest rate of this credit card. So it was the trade-off that we were willing to make. So when you look here, let's go down here and look at our savings rate. You can see that we sent $2,965 to savings, sinking funds, and retirement, and that was 29% of our total pay for the month. So of that, 1,273 went to savings, 1,280 went to sinking funds, and 412 went to retirement. And you can see the breakdown of the percentages here, which when you add those three up, they come to 29%. Going back over here to the final totals here, we had $252,326 in debt when we started this whole thing in 2018, and we have paid off a total of $57,266 to date. And what these numbers look like here is the 68.2% is actually this total amount that we put towards debt this month divided by the total amount of income that contributed to that. So that would be our salaries here, which are the 95, well, actually it's a little more. It was 10,227 plus this 15,517. Okay. So 68.2% of that total is what we paid towards debt. That's what this number is. The 22.7% represents the fact that this is 22.7% of our original starting debt of $252,326. So we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely. 22.7% of our debt is gone forever. Next up, I'm talking all about the stimulus package here in the US. So click right down here to check that out, and I will meet you over there. That's all I've got for you today. Till next time.